Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Where Are They Now? Tech and Society Career event. Thanks for spending your Friday with us, whether it's morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you are. And this is hosted by the Harvard Shorenstein Center, specifically the group that I'm part of, Product and Society. And we'll tell you about that in a little bit. But we're so glad you're here, and we're so grateful for the 12, well, I guess 11 folks that have come to talk to us about life after the Kennedy School and how they've landed where they are. So these are our speakers for today. And Aki actually couldn't make it last minute, so I'll do my best to channel them in this session. And we'll get into each person in a little bit. The way we'll structure today is each person has prepared 3 minutes where there will be a timer and the slides will advance at the end of 3 minutes. And we'll go in reverse alphabetical order, and they'll tell you a little bit about what they're doing now, how they ended up there, for them, what it means to have a tech and society or career impact. And as you all know, sometimes navigating where you might want to land can be difficult as you're figuring out things post-graduation. So these are all folks that recently graduated and have landed in really amazing places and are doing great things in tech. So this is the organizing team. I'll have Najela and Medka introduce themselves as well. I'm a faculty member here. I teach a product management and society class. And I'm also, I run something called Responsible Computing at Mozilla. And I actually recently came back to the White House doing some product work with them as well. And I was there previously in the past where I started up the product and engineering teams. So I'll have Najela and Meta introduce themselves and also share a little bit about today's event. And then we'll turn it over to why you all are here, to hear from all of our amazing alum who've so generously come back to give their time. All right, Najela, you want to kick it off?
Yeah, I can kick it off. Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Najela Akina. I'm a dual degree business school student at Sloan and public policy student at HKS. I've loved public interest in tech since I started grad school, and so I'm really excited for this panel. Please remember that this event is being recorded, and we always want it to be really interactive, so feel free to share Q&A or questions in the chat and just contribute as actively as you want to or can. And then lastly, we will be adhering to the Harvard Code of Conduct, so just make sure to keep the conversation respectful and professional. But I will turn it over to Mira to kind of kick off the event and give us more details.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meda. I am an MPP1 at HKS, and I am part of Kathy's research team. And as much as I am part of organizing this, I'm also here to learn because these are questions I have on my mind too. So I'm really grateful to the alum that have shared their time with us. And before we start, we just want to recognize that there are a lot of big cultural celebrations happening this week. So whether you celebrate Ramadan, Baisakhi, Navratri, Gudi Padwa, Tamil New Year, Vishu, Cheti Chand, or Yugadi, we wish you and your family good times. And as hard as it is during COVID, it's good to stay positive about these things too. So thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to jump right in. Before I do that though, Meta, thank you for sharing so much of the celebrations that are happening this week. I also want to recognize all the hard things that are happening this week. It seems like a really hard year, but especially with so many issues going on within the US and beyond, with shootings, with injustice, with inequality, a lot of things that are just happening really today, the past weeks, the past few months. I want to recognize that and know that's a really hard time. We're especially grateful that y'all are spending time with us today. And also it just makes these roles so much more important when you all graduate and go off into such impactful roles, whether it's in the private sector, the public sector, or nonprofits, or journalism, or news, to figure out how to build better. It's so critical. So thank you for being here with us. Oh, I just realized I don't think I had, I don't think I was sharing the past screens. So for those of you who are watching this in hindsight, these were the screens you were supposed to see. This is the organizing team. This is Najela. This is Meta. And these are the folks who will be joining us today. Aki actually couldn't join us today, but I really wanted to also highlight the amazing work they're doing over with Data for Black Lives after graduating from the Kennedy School. I know that the PAE was really all about thinking about how to make tech jargon really accessible to a general public, and did a ton of great work with New York. And now when they left, became the Director of Policy Innovation at Data for Black Lives. They'd also share their contact information, so maybe we can share that out in the end later on, but real life work we got in the way, so they couldn't join us today. But Aki has done really, really incredible work in the space, and actually comes to the ethical tech group that I host here to share back so much of what's really going on out in the world, as well as we all think of how to build technology better. Okay, so for everyone else, 3 minutes each. Let's kick it off with you, Isabel. We'll have each of you share just your role, your jobs, what got you here, and anything you want the group to know before we break out into our 4 different breakout sessions at the end. And I'll tell you what that looks like when we're at the end. Isabel, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Thanks for inviting me, and hi everyone. It's so good to kind of like be back at HKS and see so many familiar names. I only graduated in 2020, so I know quite a lot of you actually. For those who don't know me, I'm Isabel. I'm an engineering program manager at Apple, and I work in privacy. So Apple believes that privacy is a human right, and my role is basically to work directly with engineering teams on developing products and features in a way that lives up to this ideal and is preserving privacy of every single user. It's definitely been a bit of a struggle for me initially to decide to work for one of those big tech companies, but there are 2 aspects that I want to highlight that kind of like make it worthwhile for me. The first one is probably the most rewarding part about my job is to know that the impact is so massive around the globe. I read somewhere that Apple has around 1 billion users. That's 1/8 of the world's population, and preserving privacy of every single one of those, many of them who live in places where what someone says or who they meet or love can lead to real harms, is actually quite important to me. And then there's a second aspect that is to sort of prove that you can build really cool products that are data intense often without creating a surveillance empire. And I find it particularly like intriguing to kind of like create that different narrative about what the internet and product development look like. I'm happy to say more about what an EPM actually does and what that role kind of like contains. If you have any questions on that. I briefly want to say that I did not come out of HKS wanting to work as an EPM, wanting to work for Apple, or wanting to work in privacy, actually. I spent most of my time at HKS working on ethical engineering and ethics in AI, and started my job search much more in like that field. And it was only through tons and tons of conversations and meetings with people in tech, most of them alumni or people they referred me to, that I got what I felt was somewhat of an insight into the very strong cultures in those companies. And that once I kind of like had that, I connected that to kind of like really thinking about what I wanted in my role and what kind of like environment I wanted to work in. And that led me to the job and the company that I now work for. And I really encourage everyone to think about those aspects as well, not just the role or the field or the product that you work on. And as said, I spent quite some time, basically my first semester of the second year, talking to a lot of people, and I'm really happy to share all of the insights that I got from them, but also the tips that I got from them. Most of them did something similar, so I really profited from having all this information from them, and I'm happy to share that with you, or any other questions that you kind of have. And if we don't get to speak today, feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to set up like a chat or a call if you are interested in talking more. And I'm in 3 minutes.
Thank you, Isabel. That was perfect. And Apple is so lucky to have you in this role, especially with your ethics and AI and policy and tech background. So thank you.
Thank you.
Kirsten, tell us about being the nerd in chief.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Kirsten. I work in the Federal Chancellery in Germany, here in Berlin, where I'm currently based. I am Angela Merkel's nerd-in-chief, which is basically her chief advisor on anything digital and innovation policy. I lead the unit for digital policy here in the Chancellery. I did come into this administration with exactly zero experience in any politics kind of related job. I was a journalist going into HKS, so it's been a massive career transition for me going to HKS. Spent my summer in Silicon Valley, was very impressed, met all of these people that teach digital at HKS, was massively blown away by that. And it's been such a journey going from HKS to here. My job is basically, it's a very broad spectrum. So I joined in 2019, and ever since we've implemented a data strategy. We founded a digital service that was modeled after USDS, which I took the inspiration from HKS actually. We did the biggest hackathon in the history that brought us into the Guinness Book of World Records, and founded 110 social startups coming out of that. I also manage about 6 billion euros of funding for AI, quantum computing, data, anything that you can think about in digital. And we're making government a more digital place at the same time. And I think for me, the biggest impact that we can have is to put something on the agenda that is definitely not on top of any policymaker's mind. I mean, the chancellor gave a very famous speech where she said that the internet is the new frontier, and we basically know very little about it and the effects it has on society. And I think looking back, she was probably right, at least for the Europeans and Germans. And very few politicians campaign on digital policy or digital services, almost none. It doesn't win you elections. And most of them are not techies. So to bring that into government has been a real journey. And it sometimes makes me want to scream and just run out. But the baby steps that we take, and sometimes the big changes, like the founding of the digital service, all make it worthwhile for me.
Kirsten, thank you so much for sharing not just your journey and how you got here, but the complexities about even being able to do this work and the different incentives as well. So thank you for going and being the nerd in chief after leaving Harvard. Thank you. Angel, can you tell us about your role?
Hi there. I hope you can hear me. I live in Washington, D.C. I've been experiencing some low-level flyovers and a lot of sirens today. We
can hear you.
Okay, the world in DC downtown has been very different since January 6th. My name is Angelica. I work at NAVA, which is a public benefit corporation, which is a consultancy that works with federal and state agencies to build online services that are accessible, that are simple, that are modern, and follow the best practices of design, engineering, product, and actually meet user needs. I've actually been in this field for my entire career. I was working in public interest technology before I came to the Kennedy School, and I continued doing so afterwards. And I am currently a design manager for a project where I'm designing new features for Unemployment Online, which is an online system at the state of California, where there are currently today 11 million Californians that are still on unemployment insurance, that are still unemployed and don't have, are relying on the federal government to supplement their income because they're unable to earn it in this economy, in this pandemic. So I'm helping them I'm designing new systems and services. I'm leading a team, a small team of designers within a larger Scrum team to better help folks better understand their claims, the process of unemployment insurance in California, and hopefully get them their benefits faster. Because if you were following the news last year, it was taking 6 months when the federal standard is 2 to 3 weeks. And people were really struggling, and the technology was part of what was hurting them. After HKS, I actually started at the design studio within Accenture Federal Services. So I have a lot of work that I have a lot of work that I cannot talk about specifically, but I have 2 clients that I'm happy to talk about, and California is one of them. The Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services is another. And then there's a whole host of work that I can talk about in generalities. My intention is to actually go back into local government. That's where I started. I started my career working with the city of San Francisco and their Department of Technology. I went off to the Kennedy School. I got a master's in public policy and a master's in urban planning at the Graduate School of Design. So it was combining those sort of policy, planning, design skills, which landed me here. And I landed at NAVA because I like their mission, their culture, the way we design and build cross-functionally, and are really relentlessly focused on user needs while understanding the policy context that we work in. Did I hit 3 minutes?
Yes, just 15 seconds to share is fair. Thank you, Angelica. I remember meeting you for the first time at Harvard and being so inspired, and continue to be so inspired as well. Thanks for sharing not only, you know, the level of impact you can have and the difficulty of the work in these places, but also the ability to do that work when you're very government adjacent. So you're working with government, but not exactly inside a government as well, and how powerful that can be. Thank you. Devyn.
Awesome. Okay, hi, my name is Devyn. Really excited to be here along with several friends and former classmates and a current colleague, so thank you. I'm the strategy director for the Massachusetts Executive Office of Tech Services and Security, which is the central tech agency for the state of Mass. I went into grad school definitely not expecting to be where I am today. This is my first job in tech, and my academic background was actually in international development. And after undergrad, I'd worked in policy in state and local government, spent years working for legislators, city council members, fielding calls from constituents, going to community meetings, and at the end of the day, hearing from the people that we served about the trouble that they would have at accessing the services that we funded or had implemented policies to provide them for, and trying to help them navigate those difficulties. And so coming to HKS, I really wanted to shift to the implementation side of government and figure out how to make those services work better for people from the start. And while at HKS became, kind of similar story, became more interested in the role that technology played in delivering services, and especially kind of how, the smart choices around technology can make a huge difference in people's access and their success. But it's also really hard for government to make those smart choices for a variety of reasons, even with the best of intentions. And so in my current role as the strategy director for EOTS, that's where I see my impact. My team works with our own agency and with partners across other state agencies to help them define, the problems that we're facing so that we can invest in the right solutions and improve outcomes for the people that we serve. And those solutions don't always and definitely shouldn't always involve technology. And it's my team's job to help our partners make those informed choices and figure out the best path forward, whether it's tech or not. And one of the projects that's been the most perfect confluence of all of my interests, policy, tech, operations, public service, has been helping Massachusetts launch paid family and medical leave benefits for millions of workers this past January on time. And so during the past year, I've served as the product manager for the back office system that the department staff use to process applications and take in applications over the phone. And now I manage an integrated roadmap across the system with one of my colleagues that you'll hear from later. But for me, one of the biggest impacts that I had actually came 2 years earlier when I helped the newly formed department design and manage their procurement. And so creating that space and providing them with the capacity to do user research, prototyping, market research, dig into technical architecture, think about the type of vendors that, bidders that we needed to bring to the table. When the department was on a really tight statutory deadline, they had fewer than 10 employees at the time. That was critical for them to be able to deliver the modern government service and the modern user experience that they needed to provide and wanted to as Massachusetts' first digitally native government department. And so look forward to talking to you all a little later, but quick plug, DFML is hiring for some awesome roles. So if you're interested, come find me later.
Thank you, Devyn. As you were talking, I had made a note. I was like, the words paid family leave and government and implementation on time and product management all together is so incredible. Thank you for your leadership in the state of Massachusetts. Jessica.
Yeah, hey everybody. I started my career as a Teach for America Corps member. I've spent 2 years teaching on the South Side of Chicago, and after that spent 5 years at Deloitte in consulting before I started business school and a joint degree with HKS. I graduated in 2019 and had 2 internship summers that introduced me to tech. My first internship summer was at Google in finance operations, which was a nod to my background. I was a finance major undergrad and really just loved the business world, but have always had this duality with helping the community that I came from, and also just looking at the bottom line. So I just love when business and society come together for the greater good. So my second summer, I decided not to go back to Google in finance. I really wanted something in education and seeing how ed tech could change student outcomes. And I came to Adobe as a product marketing manager in our education practice. And so Adobe has 3 clouds. So Creative Cloud, which has Photoshop and Illustrator, Premiere Pro, which is specifically the product that I work on, and a whole host of other applications. We have the Document Cloud, which is where PDF comes in, and Adobe Sign. And our third cloud is the Experience Cloud, which has enterprise workflows for customer management and things like that, kind of like a Salesforce type of product. And so I specifically came in on Creative Cloud, and Adobe has a mission of enabling creativity for all people. And so I specifically worked on K-12 and getting creativity into the classroom, not just in the US, but globally. And I really loved that job. Especially getting to say like student and teacher at work and going into classrooms and teaching kids how to use technology was amazing. But I really wanted to solve their pain points. And I found that a lot of the other point product teams weren't always solving the problems that I felt were most important for students. So I decided to take a rotation, actually covered for someone on maternity leave. So when I heard someone was working on family leave, my ears perked up. So got an opportunity to work as a product manager for 6 months, and then used that opportunity to shift into my current role. So I've been at Adobe for a year and a half, and I'm 6 weeks into my third role, which feels like a whirlwind. I feel like it was just yesterday we were at HKS and the world was normal or somewhat normal. But yeah, that's pretty much me. I work day to day with engineers. My engineering manager and I talk every single day. And we work on making sure that folks that are creating video, especially during the pandemic, we've seen a really big increase in consumers making video to, for mental health reasons, hobbyists, people who are not just Hollywood and Netflix and feature film editors, but how do we get the everyday person to make a video? Oh no, I'm the only one that got the buzzer. Yeah, but that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Jessica. You can hear more when we do breakout rooms as well. And thanks for sharing just this. There are places where you can think about having what it means to have creativity for all. And also, maybe you don't start out as a product manager, but there are lots of different paths to get into it. So thank you for sharing that. All right, Santiago.
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining, and thank you, Kathy and team, for organizing this. My name is Santiago Melo. I'm from Colombia. I started my career in finance. I had the privilege of being on the founding team of Acumen for Latin America. Acumen is an impact investing fund that is very, very specialized, like in improving the livelihoods of low-income populations. It was a great experience in the sense that, and this is of course by investing like in companies that in some way like either provide service to the low-income populations or include them like in high-value chains. So very interesting. I got to see where the private sector can have an impact, where the public sector has deficiencies, and where can the private sectors can step in. We ended up focusing like in agriculture. a vast majority, like 30% of the population in Latin America are rural communities. So involving them like in high value agricultural supply chains was very important. And the other thing was education. And of course, one of the biggest enablers of technology is the democratization of access to information and to education per se. So I deep dive like on that. Like I found out that we had like a bunch of challenges in Latin America. One, the solutions that were like created in the US, Coursera, etc., were not applicable like to our context. The other one was that the solutions that we were providing in-house. We had the pedagogical knowledge, but no one was savvy enough like from the technology side. And of course, technology like had the like opportunity to improve quality and to increase access, right? So I decided that I wanted like to learn a little bit more about what is technology development and what better place to do it than in the US and in a big tech company. So I decided to go to grad school. I actually started the dual degree with HKS. I didn't finish, but I got to work with Kathy in government and technology. That was very interesting. And nothing. I think that with big tech, like you're touching society all the time. If you think about it, like Facebook, like it's your social relationships. Google is access to information. Amazon is what you purchase every day, right? Some of the most basic like human needs. So I think like I'm currently a product manager, and I take decisions like considering society overall and the users overall, like every single day. Right now, like with the privacy, right? Like advertising is the business model of the internet. It's what supports the internet infrastructure. And right now, like there's a bunch of sort of conversations going around privacy and the use of cookies, like to identify and target users. So definitely super relevant. And if you're gonna be in big tech, you're gonna have to government regulation and society, like consider it every single day in your job.
Thanks, Santiago, and for the reminder that pretty much everything is touching society, right? and how all these roles are so important. Thank you. Hannah.
Hi, everyone. It's great to see so many familiar faces. Thank you so much for inviting me too. I do want to put my plug in the beginning. We're hiring, so if you're interested, please reach out if you'd like to have a conversation. But I've been in tech my whole career. I graduated with a poli-sci major, but was always a nerd and ended up going into health tech right out of school. Was in implementation services there, and then eventually switched into GovTech, working at GovDelivery, now Granicus. Ended up managing a business intelligence team there, working with state and federal agencies on their email marketing campaigns. I got a little tired of being a vendor in both of those roles. So I applied to HKS, focused in public interest technology, which is, obviously it's in the ecosystem, but I made up as a policy concentration in the course catalog admin type thing. I took a whole bunch of classes in the business school and law school and at HKS on technology. I did my summer fellowship at an organization called Upturn. They do a lot of technology research for social justice and equity. And I highly recommend looking into their work and signing up for their newsletter. They do really great stuff. My research there was on digital advertising and discrimination in digital advertising. So I got just very interested in the ways that discrimination emerges through like no intention of the people buying advertisements for things like employment and housing and jobs. And that got me really into the media ecosystem and the ways that we distribute information online. I didn't apply to very many jobs after HKS. I saw this data product job and was really interested in thinking about the ways. So I manage the proprietary like clickstream for the New York Times, which is really used to understand how the audience is engaging with different lines of coverage. And it's used pretty much in every department in the organization. And So I get to see a lot of like how the media ecosystem works. I'm learning a lot about that because I'm new to it. In my role, so I think actually what I'm doing right now that's most impactful is building out the data products function and thinking about ways to help the Times achieve its diversity and equity and inclusion goals through hiring and career ladders and things like that. And we really building out that function. So please join us. I'm happy to answer any other questions as well.
Thanks, Hannah. And what an important time to be at a place like the New York Times and to think of data products that really power our news and journalism. Thank you for that work. Sahil.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sahil Joshi. I am an MBA MPA who graduated in 2020, so great to see a lot of familiar faces. I'm currently, well, I guess my journey was started as a consultant for 4 years, definitely recovering from that now, but was focused on the intersection of tech and disruptive tech and government. Came to HKS and Sloan to pursue that. Had a few detours in the investor world, which were really interesting and gave me some additional perspective, but ultimately am now a principal at Google within our global business organization. So what does that actually mean? My role right now is really the general management of some of our large e-commerce customer accounts. So I work with my team to help these customers really grow their business through a few different ways, primarily analytics, artificial intelligence, and marketing measurement. A few things about the role that have jumped out to me and might be interesting to the HKS crowd. I've been enjoying and learning about the business of tech, but it's increasingly connecting with policy. And a lot of my HKS lessons are actually coming into play a lot lately. I've started recently leading some of our ads privacy work, where there's been a lot of changes in the ecosystem around privacy regulations, as well as our friends at Apple have made some changes regarding iOS, which I'm sure Jamie Bloom can talk to you about in a little bit. But essentially here we are trying to really both protect our users and make sure they keep coming back to our platform, but also provide the advertisers with insights they need. And I only really got one part of that flavor at HKS, never really thought about the business needs of keeping these products alive, only focused on the user. So it's been really interesting kind of diving in here. The other thing that I've really been interested in learning about is how companies deal with their growing pains and grow up. Learned a lot of skills at HKS, how to translate from tech to English, how to dive in and out of different levels of detail, how to go to a class from like focused on national security to something that's focused on like talking about your feelings if you ever took the courses with Heifetz and co. But I think all of these like abilities to code shift have been really helpful in my role, and excited to talk to you guys about it.
Thanks, Sahil. And just also touching on the importance of understanding the business of all this, because if we can focus on the user all day and care about responsible design, but if there's no business, we cannot get anywhere. So thank you for sharing that and your experience at Google doing that. Julia.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Julia Gutierrez. I am a senior engagement manager at Massachusetts Digital Service. And you know, I've always been interested in how government can improve people's lives. When I was working in Mexico City at a public policy think tank before HKS, I was working with state and local governments to design and implement programs. And that's really where I realized that for me, the policy area that I was super interested in was, you know, well, creating good policy is super important, but like actually how you implement it is critical to delivering good services. And so when I joined at HKS, I took a digital government class, DPI 662 with David Eves. And that's really where I realized like, wow, user-centered design, technology, they play a critical role in delivering good government services. That led me to meet Holly, Chief Digital Officer of Massachusetts, learn about the digital services team, and just like really wanting to go work there. It was exciting, and I was a little nervous about taking the leap from like learning about digital services to being a practitioner of them because I didn't have a technology background, but it's been awesome. I've been working there since 2017, and you know, our mission is to help state agencies use the best technology, data, and design to make every interaction with government simpler, faster, and more meaningful. So like literally what I'm passionate about. And over the last 4 years, I've gotten to work on a lot of really cool projects with agencies across the whole Commonwealth, the Department of Transitional Assistance, Mass Wildlife, Department of Unemployment Assistance. But the project that I've really worked on over the last year that showed me the type of impact we can have is launching the paid leave program, which I don't know if Devyn mentioned in her story, but it's the most comprehensive program of this type in the country. And so Devyn and I have had the opportunity to contribute to building what's actually the first digitally native service in Massachusetts. From things being brick and mortar, this new department's North Star has been, let's build a digital first service that puts users at its center. And so I was the product owner overseeing the development of paidleave.mass.gov coming up to launch. And we had less than a year to design it and build it. And we worked iteratively, incrementally, pilots with real users up to launch. And now that we've launched, I'm also focusing my time on learning from users and managing the integrated roadmap for continuously improving the experience. Like Devyn said, they are hiring, and also Mass Digital is hiring. So.
Great, thank you. Yes, go work for Mass Digital and the government anywhere. Thank you for sharing so much around the policy's role in even understanding what delivering good services is like, and that intersection of user-centered design and tech and policy. And we're so lucky to have you in the government working on that. Thank you. Ayush.
Hey everyone, my name's Ayush. I was looking at everyone else's slides and how thoughtful their blurbs were, and so I apologize for this really vague sentence about me. But I graduated in 2019 from HKS with an MPP. I worked at Yahoo and Tumblr before that on some privacy stuff and some ad policy stuff and some product stuff, and I was like, this isn't really for me. So I went to HKS to figure out what I could do with my tech skills in a more useful setting. I took a bunch of the classics that people who are interested in tech take. Jim Waldo's class and Nick Sinai's class. I was Kathy's CA. And I think I sort of realized product is really the fantastic place to go, because that's where you're actually secretly making a lot of policy decisions that no one ever talks about. And it's my favorite part of it is I think that no 2 days are the same. I knew I wanted to do something with impact, so I spent my summer in Kenya working at a startup which dealt with sort of the informal economy and mobile apps. And then I, after graduating, did the big job hunt, unlike some people here who were yeah, I just applied to one job and it worked out. I must have applied to a ton because I really didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, or I knew I wanted to do something public interest, but that could have meant the private sector. The job that worked out, to be totally transparent, was through HKS Networks, and it was a company culture that I really fell in love with at Ad Hoc. Ad Hoc is a government digital services agency, so we build technologies for different federal clients. Right now, I am the product lead for the VA mobile app, which is a flagship app which integrates a bunch of different services which have never existed in the same place before. Like I said, my day-to-day, it's everything from design and business operations to dealing with technical problems and working directly with vets. We are also hiring, so we would love to chat with you. I think government and digital services in particular is really in need of good HKS talent. We work really closely with some agencies you've heard of, probably the US Digital Service and 18F, and of course lots of people embedded in these organizations themselves.
Thanks, Ayush. It hadn't occurred to me that this would turn into a mini recruitment pitch as well. My heart leaped a bit when you mentioned that product has a way of influencing policy, or at least at the very least be able to drive policy forward. I think that was one of my greatest lessons learned as well. So thank you for the work you do and for sharing with the group. And Jamie.
Hey everyone, how's it going? So I'm a business operations manager at Apple. It's a pretty broad title, but while most people here were talking about building technology products or apps or things that run through the internet. My job is actually building physical technology products. So my role as a business operation manager is I manage the commercial and contractual relationship with all our contract manufacturers around Asia. So my products are all the computers, desktop laptops, and everything in between. So what that really entails is I work extremely close with China, with Thailand, with everywhere else we have factories. And so one, my background was I was a strategy consultant, kind of like Sahil, and then was living in DC and had kind of a breakdown and realized I wanted to be on the HKS side of the world. So I was working in garment and footwear factories in Cambodia for a few years prior to going back to school. And I knew I wanted to be back in supply chains, back in that space. And so originally thinking through my role, I was thinking how I could get involved in public sector or nonprofit. And it was never my intention to go into tech. But when I thought about working in supply chains and working among scale and having impact, I realized that, Apple does make physical products. It's a tech company, but it's a physical tech company. And so the scale of their supply chains and the millions of people they employ within them and the high level policy decisions they have to make, I thought I could have the most impact. So things I like about my role, especially, is just the relevance day to day. So I made a little list of just things that popped up in the front page of the news in the last week that I had meetings for in real time for my job. So the Suez Canal, all those things that are blocking shipping across the world, the semiconductor shortage and the supply chain. Trump's out of office, but the tariffs are still here. We spend a lot of time on tariffs and policy decisions around those. American manufacturing, and then people and jobs just within our supply chains, and how those impact good jobs, quality jobs, and where those jobs are. So I'm happy to talk to anyone about how I ended up here. And although my role is definitely business oriented, I think about policy daily, and I'm constantly meeting with policy people, cross-cultural, thinking about different dynamics and different cultures we work with. So I really love working at Apple. I think it's a hard driving place that has kind of managed to skirt around a lot of the negative criticism of other tech companies, which I'm personally proud of. And yeah, and I think we make amazing products that obviously impact people's lives, but behind the scenes creating those products has tremendous impact too, and a lot of policy decisions go into it. So it's a lot of fun, and I get to be around the products and travel back to Asia quite often in normal times. So happy to talk, and we are always hiring as well. So feel free to ping me offline.
Thank you, Jamie, and thanks for just in a few minutes sharing us just a deep level of impact you have in your role and the ability for anyone here to have in a role at any of these places. Thank you. All right, everyone. This is by no means an exhaustive list of the graduates of the Kennedy School who've gone into tech-related roles. I think for the sake of having an event online, we had these 12 folks initially start, so maybe we can think of ways to have this continue as well. I know I've learned a ton. So right now we'll go ahead and stop recording.